All right. So here's your build in the Aigle. Um, interesting. So you went from magazine mod. I like that because um, you don't have to use dead flags, and it kind of stupid thing. Turn that off. Sorry about that. You don't have to use dead flags, and it helps to reduce your chances of detonating. I mean, it's not 100%, but it really does help reduce those possibilities.
I like.
And the, yes,
Sorry,
Grunty?
I was just saying I like it on those mid-tier destroyers where you really don't necessarily want to run the dead flags, and they're
Hmm.
not super competitive. It, it's an easy way to help you out, and it's not that the turrets on the Aigle are that fragile. So
No. All right. Then you got engine boost mod. It's a premium ship. It's a destroyer. If you use it a lot, it makes sense to put engine boost on it. Main battery modification 2, so your turret traverse is 20 seconds, 21 seconds, 180 degree. That's probably a good idea. And then you've got propulsion mod for extra Scooty Boy action. Cool. What's your maneuverability? 4-second rudder shift, so yeah, that's fine. Is this a
yes,
special captain?
Yeah, it's Henri.
Okay.
I
What was that,
assume
Grunty?
it's not a build for the Aigle though, right? It's probably your clever captain.
Falcon, do you have this assigned to a specific ship besides this, like a Track 2 ship?
No, I've got him assigned to the Aigle. But
Okay.
Really?
yeah, I love playing tier 5, 6s, and 7s.
I, I find the skill choices at the tier 4 weird for an Aigle. But the shells are so floaty, I don't think you get enough out of the extra range. I'd
See,
rather
look
have
at
the
look at
concealment.
you guys are all just like moving on before we even get a chance to talk about this stuff. All right. So the captain build, Pock, shush you. The captain build. I'm just gonna do this. It's like the old-fashioned teacher with that piece of paper on the transparency to cover it, so you can only go so far while you're taking your notes. Anyway, so you've got grease the gears into last stand, into main battery anti-air, into gun range, into preventative maintenance, adrenaline rush, survivability expert, and fearless brawler. All right, Grunty, why is this not a good build for this ship?
I just think you don't get in something out of the extra range. These are not the same shells you get on a Clever. These are
Okay.
super floaty shells.
Okay.
And like hitting at the extra range of 15 kilometers with them, I would much rather have the concealment. Like the concealment is still not good, but at tier
Yeah.
6 there's a lot of destroyers that also don't have a good concealment, and then if you take the concealments, you're competitive again.
So let's take a look at that. It's 7.5 right now, kilometer. Drop the concealment, now it's 6.76. I agree with Grunty, that makes it a little bit more comfortable when playing around. Now, I kind of get an idea from the Podvoisky games that we covered before that, Falcon, your playstyle is typically more run and gun. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, I want people to
Okay.
shoot at me all the time. And
So
I constantly shoot.
if that's the case, then the extra concealment isn't really going to help him. It will help Grunty and other people who are used to playing, concealment-ish destroyers. This is more like a hybrid destroyer. It's good at nothing but decent at everything, right? Um, so, all right, let's drop concealment for a second and let's think about this. Instead, because I do agree that, I mean, what's your gun range right now? 12.7 kilometers. You probably don't need the extra 2.5 kilometer of range that you get from this. Probably.
Like
We'll,
I'm
we'll
looking
watch you replay.
at 12.7, you already have an 11.2-second shelf life time. At
Yeah,
15 seconds, you're looking at 14.5 seconds shelf life time.
right.
That's a lot.
So instead of this skill, and knowing that Concealment Expert probably is going to help him if he prefers a run-and-gun style play. Dazzle is a possibility. It
I
helps
take it
him.
on mine, actually, but it doesn't help him for run and gun play style if he's spotted anyway.
He has
It
to
only
get in the
helps if he
habit
goes dark all the
of
time.
going dark. Correct. So Dazzle might not be the best option for him either. All right. So let's think about. Yes, sir.
So my build is like I drop his 2-point skills and I have Concealment Dazzle. If you don't like the Dazzle and you want the Fearless Brawler for open water gunboating, I can see it. I'd still pick up the Concealment for the situation where it's useful. Like, even if you play long-range gunboat style most of the time, like, this ship has 8-kilometer torpedoes too. Like, if you bring your Concealment down to 6-8, the Torps are actually usable. With 7-5, not so much.
Again, that is assuming that he's going to make use of that concealment and use those torps, which we'll find out in the replay. So, again, based on his playstyle right now, the run and gun playstyle, okay, if we don't think Dazzle's going to work, if we don't think main battery is going to work, let me scroll down a little bit here. If we don't think that's going to work, I would actually think radiolocation might be kind of fun. This is, in my opinion, useful for a more end-game setup. Because let's say that you've won most of the battle, there's one last like stealthy destroyer, like I don't know, a Fubuki out there or something like that. All you have to do is point your bow at the radiolocation marker and you're going to run him down, right? Because you're stupid fast.
Only with the speed boost, though. The ship is not very fast without it.
Sure, but at tier 6s, most of the maps are medium to small size. Ship's going to run out of range, or out of room to maneuver, in my opinion. So, I think radiolocation could be helpful for him.
SAT has a good point here, though.
What?
If you prefer the run and gun play style, I think the Gepard is the better ship for it.
Okay. So then, on array, you could throw on array on the Guppy, and you could play both ships. If you like switching to AP, I've seen you try doing that in previous battle. Doing this to buff your AP is okay, but what's your caliber? 139s?
It's not good AP on this ship.
It's not, because this came out before the French destroyers. If you're playing on the Guppy, you do it.
You could do, maybe if you want to play open water gunboat, like, I could see the priority target just to know how many people are actually looking at you. And combine it maybe with the extra fire chance or something like this.
So
Or
the
get
nice
the
thing,
additional speed boost duration.
when I play the Kiev, I play with priority target, and you're absolutely right. That's a great point, Grunty. You see how many people are detecting you or targeting you, and that's when you know. You even said yourself, Falcon, you want them to shoot at you because they're not shooting at your teammates, right?
Correct.
So if you see that number go up to, say, 5, all right, it's time to break contact for a second. Let them all waste their time turning their guns, getting in position to shoot you, only for you to blow smoke, and now they've lost you, right? You've wasted their time to turn their turrets, and now they got to go back to somebody else. I do this all the time in my Kiev. And I also look at it as kind of like the troll face, like emote. Like, you think about, like, the higher that number, the bigger the grid on your troll face. So I like priority target for that perspective. That's a good idea, Grunty. The other thing is, you could absolutely go with Demolition Expert to start more fires and just piss battleships off even more so. Or, alternately, you could do consumable enhancements for extra engine boost speedy, which does actually go well with your engine boost. So I might go consumables here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can take both, right? Like the priority target and the consumables. Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's what I mean.
One thing I
That's
want to
what-
mention about this ship before I forget it, the Aigle actually does not have the French saturation trait.
No.
It's a regular destroyer.
Correct. Because again, it came out before the French destroyer line. It was never changed to be in line with the French destroyers. So that's a very good point.
So it takes
All right.
more damage than other French DDs.
Yes, it
separate.
takes more
Correct.
damage before it gets saturated, which
Correct.
makes it less suited for an open water gunboat style that wants to get shot at, especially if you compare it to the tech tree counterpart, the Gepard.
It does make it more challenging, that is true. Now let's get to the part that Pock had mentioned. Sir, you are running detonation flags, and you've already got this detonation magazine modification 1. These two are redundant. I would pick one, but not the other.
I see his point, because I'm looking at the flag right now in game. It completely eliminates the risk of your ship's magazine detonating. So, yeah.
That is correct.
If
I
if
think-
you
And-
run the flag,
and I
you
am-
want to
You know, I kind of spend a lot of money on signals, but yeah, that's overkill right there for sure.
So, if you don't want to be buying the signals, then you run magazine modification. If you're going to buy the signals, then you would run your main battery, is what you would do. Main Armaments Mod 1.
Mm-hmm.
The nice thing is, this is a very cheap and easy change, right? So,
Right.
especially if you've got the premium battle pass or whatever, it's free. I can't remember if Commander respecking is or not, but anyway, looking at the other stuff you've got, fire extinguishing, fire chance, flood chance, ship speed, consumables,
you
smoke.
can save
Okay,
yourself the smoke flag if you want to. Like it doesn't do much. It's like 2 seconds extra smoke or so.
smoke,
If you
and
want to save money.
if you're doing a run and gun setup, then smoke is really only useful to break line of sight and then reposition and then open up on your guns again. So you don't need that extra time. If you're going to stop and sit in your smoke a lot, this is useful only if you are moving at a quarter speed while you are dropping smoke. If you stop or reverse, you run the risk of not putting out extra puffs with your smoke generator. What that means is you're negating the bonus of this flag. And this is an expensive flag, too. So, I might consider not running that flag. Anti-air is always fun to run. Even though you've got crap anti-air, it just makes you feel a little bit better about dealing with carriers.
I would say
And
the
that's it.
credits there too. It's
I know.
so if anything, what I would do on such kind of destroyers, like I mean, he's already running it, right? The fire chant. Yeah, he has a reduction in for fires. You could do a ramming flag, honestly. Just if
Yeah.
you wanna, if a submarine tries to ram you or shotgun you.
I was going to
Yeah.
mention that. You could try that. All right. Let's
only
get to your
got
game.
763 of the ramming flag, so yeah, I could afford to give those up.
All right, let's get to your game and see what we can see. We spent a little bit extra time talking about commander builds there, but I think it's important, you know, because I know how you play and you're in here to answer questions, I think it's nice we can fine-tune a build to you as opposed to like, well, this is what you should play. So that's cool. That's cool.
So I'm going to let you guys go, you know, get in the mind of Blue Falcon here. So I'm looking at the mini map, and I'm seeing the
Okay.
Icarus, the Nuremberg, and I'm thinking, you know, I really depend on spotting on this southeast flank, and I'm
Okay.
hoping more ships come this way. So I initially think, well, I don't know if the Icarus is going to head over to my side and cover the flank with me. So initially I'm thinking this, let me go towards Bravo. And I know TM Grunty's probably grinding his teeth right now because I gave up the flank right here.
I
So
certainly
that's, yeah, that was my mindset right then. And then I think I reached out to them in text and I asked them to cover me, both the Icarus and the Nuremberg. Hey, cover me. I'm going to basically head to the south. Will y'all cover me?
See, I don't hate it going to B at the start because like your spawn was super weak. But the moment you see the Icarus coming down that line, I think that means you need to stay and go for the CCAP.
Yep.
So I paused it here because this is your decision point, right?
Mhm.
You either choose to keep going, or you choose to turn. I'm gonna make a pilot reference here. So pilots have a point of no return, right? When they're taking off, they have a certain speed. Up until that point, they can abort. After that, they have to go. And that's kind of like where you're at right now. So, the problem with you going C is that island at Hotel 9, right? That big island.
Yes.
A lot of stealth destroyers like to come around that island and Torp and stuff like that, and you can easily get yourself in trouble. Look at the enemy lineup. Farragut, Vasteras, Jaguar. The only one of those that you really have to worry about is the Farragut. And even then, I would say the worry is if you plunge face first into him, and for whatever reason, continue plunging face first into him while he smokes and just holds down left mouse button and laughs maniacally, which you're not going to do. You're going to slow down, you're going to turn, you're going to die, whatever. So, I would totally have gone down the 10 line here. Actually, what I might have done, yeah, I would have gone down the 9 line. You can see my cursor. I would have gone down the 9 line and then covered kind of like this area here. You can see the gap between Foxtrot 8 and Hotel, 9. Okay? That gap between those two small islands. Why? You get so much spotting. You can see what's right here, typically cruisers and battleships. It also allows you to spot what's going into CCAP. With your concealment being so low, you'll be detected. That's okay. Because when you're detected, if you've got, again, priority target, you get idea of how many people are targeting you, how many people are looking at you, gives you an idea of how many are there. And then, of course, if they open up, hit your speed boost, and just go and laugh, because most of those shells are going to miss you. And then what you do is you kite away and you play speed games and stuff like that while you continue spotting for ships that are with you. In this case, it's really only the Nuremberg, although those two Ismails are kind of coming this way. Over time, they might get into a position where they can help.
Yep.
And
I
also,
call that.
Go ahead, Tony. Running.
Pretty much everything from the middle is coming down to that side too, which makes going into B even less appealing now because they will have this big island in the way where they can't shoot over to actually support you in B. So if you continue to go into B, you are pretty much on your own, except for
Yes.
maybe the Icarus that will be able to shoot in. Everything else will be blocked.
Yes.
And I think at about the same time as this is going on, I'm also thinking of what you guys have told me in the past is, hey, you got a carrier on the other team that you got to be concerned about. So you need
Okay.
overlapping AA. So I also think about that at the same point.
It's a Vaser. It can't hit you with the bombs at least, and you have a good chance of angling against the rockets and avoiding the torps. So wouldn't be worried too much about a Vaser, but in general, you're right.
If this was a British carrier, if this was an American carrier, 100% do that. Maybe a Japanese premium that's got HE, like a Kaga, but HE bombs. But a Vesta, the German carrier, is going to have AP rockets. They can absolutely do damage to you if they pen or overpen. But as Grunty says, you can try to dodge. The big thing for anti-destroyer work for these carriers is their torpedo bombers, and even those are very difficult to land unless you really know what you're doing in a carrier, or your target is a relatively slow-moving ship. What I'm getting at is, you could probably be okay against carriers in this particular lineup. General, you're right. Stay closer to your team for anti-air bubbles is a good idea. Alright, shall we continue?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Merci.
Look at that DD turning south.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. I like it a lot.
Acknowledged.
So yeah, very smart decision to do this. And then what I would do as I get to this island here is I would actually turn out and have my bow pointed northeast so that I can just hit W and run. You're instead going deeper into the sea cap, which is okay.
Trying to get spotted right here, basically. I'm trying to get them to shoot at me, and I have my guns on the wrong damn side of the ship now that I look at it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Especially if you're gonna make a left turn now, your guns are definitely wrong.
And there's the ship I was concerned about, the Farragut.
See, the thing with the Farragut is you would actually have the same concealment as if you were running for a concealment build. And then you could just
Problème résolu, chef.
probably take the fight.
Uh, I would say in this case the concealment is an advantage. The lack of concealment, I should say, is an advantage. Because he gets detected earlier, and the Farragut does what, you know, you kind of want him to do, which is he opens up with his guns. Which allows you to spot him. Oh, look, cot spread. He will make SAT score very proud. This part right here is relatively dangerous because Farragut is most likely going to torp this channel. So you absolutely don't want to continue or linger around here. So I like that you keep going. And using engine boost, as SAT said, might have been a better use too. Look at engine boost as not get me someplace faster. That's for a torpedo-based boat usually. Look at engine boost as I want to dodge incoming fire. So in other words, you don't pop engine boost until you're detected and you're being shot at. Stevie?
9K, hit the Farragut.
Concentrez le tir sur le navire ennemi.
Yep, you definitely hit the destroyer. Let's get Stevie up for you guys. There he is.
So now, yeah, I'm waiting for the Farragut to come out of the smoke. I don't know where he's at because I don't have RDF going on. That would be helpful.
I mean, he's still sitting in the smoke capping.
If he's not sitting in the
Isn't it-
smoke, he's probably detected by the Icarus. Probably.
You could have told the Icarus to pop his hydro and go in, tell him you hit the torps, though the Farragut was easy to kill.
Yeah, I was a
Because you
little concerned here.
100% hit the Farragut with the torp. There was nothing else you could have possibly hit.
Yeah, I was really hoping the Icarus wouldn't get no shot on the Charlie Cap going behind the island he's about to go behind, looks like.
You can't control other players. You can ask. That's about it. I paused it here for another reason, though. And that is, you have now come around. You have a shot on where the smoke is. There's 3 seconds until the Farragut caps. So he's going to cap. You're not going to be able to stop it. So at this point, what I would actually do is I would stop. I would stop and turn south. And the reason for that is you want to be in position to ambush this Farragut as soon as he comes out of smoke. Let him think that he's safe. He'll come out, bow him. The farther west you go right now, the more dangerous that La Argentina becomes, and the more dangerous that New Mexico becomes. So stopping here ensures that they are farther away from you when you do get spotted, and you do attack that Farragut.
Trust me, I was watching both of them, especially at large.
I know.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, La Argentina has AP only, although it can absolutely punch, so be careful. Here we go. You could luck chuck into the smoke as well, but that smoke is probably going to expire pretty soon.
About
Talk
to
to
come
Blue,
in
honestly.
Argentina range.
There he is,
Now I'm
right there.
decreasing. Increasing speed. There he is.
Destroyer ennemi envoyé par le
So
fond.
this would be a really good time to actually stop and smoke. New Mexico fired at you, so he's going to be detected for a very long time. You can absolutely nail him. Narrow spread, by the way, through Torps.
Why narrow
Hey, Hoosier?
spread? I mean, yeah,
The gap
I hear you
between the torps is too big.
on the okay.
So think of it this way. A wide spread, you're going to hit one torpedo if you're lucky. You cover more distance, but the only time that that's going to be useful is if you know for sure that this New Mexico is going to change directions. You don't necessarily know that. And the other thing is, narrow allows you to hit multiple times. So, and SAT is exactly what I was about to say next. I would be stopping, I would be farming, and I would only be shooting torpedoes once I knew what is this New Mexico doing. Is he going to charge me in my smoke, or is he going to turn and run? If he turns and runs, then I would maybe consider more widespread, and I would try to torp in front of him. Even then, I'd probably still do narrow spread. So
The gap at 8 kilometers on those torps is almost wide enough to fit a broadside battleship between. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
think-
I've ever used these torps in widespread unless I'm at very, very close range and I want to shoot them into a smoke that is there or so.
Hmm.
But
And I'm also looking at the mini map, guys. It looks like we're behind about 30 points, and I hear what SAT score is saying on farming. But I want to just get Charlie Cap, get the points start to rotating towards us. Look at the east side of the mini map. We've got
look at
basically
your east
half the
side.
fleet. They're over there, and they're not going to have any shots towards the center. So my idea here is to pop smoke, launch torps, and go get Charlie, and then push towards Bravo.
Your
Okay.
battleship is
thinking.
almost in Charlie, and so is your destroyer.
Mhm.
There's
So-
no reason for you to get back to get this cap. Your battleships and the other destroyers are gonna get that.
You hope.
I mean, they
No.
literally have to drive through it if they want to get to the other ships. Like, they're almost gonna get that on accident.
So, anyways, you're welcome for the drops, the two of you guys that said that. Awesome. I agree with SAT. Right now, it's too early to worry about caps. However, not having any cap at all and somebody capping A, which is a sub of all things, is definitely an area of concern. That being said, you staying out there and being shot at is going to cause you to lose your health at the expense of really no additional gain. The only time that I would keep running at this point would be to YOLO charge the New Mexico and just torp the hell out of him. I would say that if you really felt like you needed to make a play happen now to turn this game around, that would be your option, because New Mexico's relatively slow. He only has the front two turrets available. He's sailing directly at you. And if he turns around, then you can stop and smoke. As mentioned, you've got an Ishmael, another Ismail, an Omaha, and Nuremberg, and an Icarus all with you. So the chances that this New Mexico is going to live very long are quite low. And then once that happens, somebody's probably going to go in the cap. If it's going to be you, it's going to be you. If not, whatever. But what you need to be thinking right now is, I need to get these ships out and get into move on. So I would stop, I would smoke, I would farm the New Mexico, as everybody else will, and get him at the very least to turn around so that you can start continuing to follow outside of concealment range. Or give him a turn around, you follow at near max range, not currently because you've got, we talked about floaty shells. But basically just continue to harass him. One of those two options is good.
Also, look at that
Okay, so
Jaguar on the
if you-
7 line pushing for our Fezzer. I was also thinking about that as saying.
You can think about it all you want, but at this point, you're too far away to help him.
I think I clicked on the map a few times to let them know.
If you don't want to sit in the smoke and farm, then why did you even pop it in the first place? It's another.
Because I had just fired at the Farragut, and I knew the La Argentina was one of my biggest concerns. I don't think I farmed too long in this smoke. Might have done a little bit, but
Look at this, your Icarus is in the cap, and so is the Ismail.
yeah.
And I would absolutely be shooting the New Mexico here. And the main reason for that is because you want to try to get him to set a fire and give him a DCP. Because if he DCPs, then your torpedo might follow up and cause a flood. It didn't happen. You only got one torpedo hit on the New Mex. Did you notice how the New Mex didn't even change course?
Yeah. Now that you mentioned it, yeah.
You missed out on 1 or 2 additional torpedo hits. Which is an extra flood, or a flood. A DCP, maybe later a sticky fire, you get the idea.
Boost des moteurs désactivé.
Also, so far you have not had an engagement where that extra gun range has helped you.
No.
And
You
you
even
just throwing
struggled
that
to
up.
hit that cruiser at like 10 kilometers because the
Mhm.
shells are so floaty.
That's a good
That's right.
point. And that's why I'm here, to get good feedback, guys, so I can change my
Absolutely.
gameplay a little bit.
And that's why we're here too. We're not trashing you, we're suggesting. That's it.
Yeah. So I think I went narrow spread on that New Mexico Torps. I think Torps in New Mexico. I don't
Yeah,
know if that
those
is.
are definitely narrow. It might
The
die
second-
before they reach though.
The second salvo was narrow spread. The problem with that, you got the kill, nice. The problem with that spread being narrow there
À tous
is
les bâtiments.
the New Mexico started maneuvering as you fired your torpedoes. In that position, you're better off holding your torpedoes for just a little bit longer to get an idea of what is the New Mexico going to do. And what he ended up doing was staying bow on to the Ismail and just charging, which is hilarious. But there was always the possibility that he would have tried to game return and run away. And if he does that, well, you want to be able to try torpedoing him as he does that. That's more of a higher tier mindset, because at the higher tiers, battleships can take those kinds of slaps and run away appropriately.
And your carrier moved too late and in the wrong direction, so he's gonna die.
That's on your carrier. You can't help it.
Uh,
As
So
you said-
here I'm wondering, what the hell is the Icarus doing? He's just sitting there. So, okay. Come on, man. Need your assistance.
Yeah, but more importantly, what's your next move?
Hey, Puddin'!
My next move is to go towards Bravo, the cap.
And then?
I look at the map, the mini map,
Mhm.
and I'm asking the guys, you'll see it here in a few. I'm
Mhm.
saying, hey guys, spread out from the east to the west. Don't all stay in the center of the map. Let's get some spreads and flanking shots. And let me head towards Bravo and take the cap.
Mhm.
Okay, but what's your next move after going to B?
Take Bravo.
I wouldn't plan further ahead than taking Bravo, because you don't know where the position of the enemy ships will be after you take Bravo.
What?
Agreed.
The enemy team could all be stuck still in the A cap. They could have relocated going south again. Like, you don't know.
But not having any sort of plan. Like, going to B is obviously, yes, I'm going to cap it and take it.
Mhm.
And then just not having any idea of what you want to do next. Like, do you go hunt their carrier? Like, take B. Okay, so I take B. I've got my exit route planned to go back to my team in case the enemy come at me. But what is my plan to do afterwards? Do I go avenge my carrier and kill that DD who's pretty much alone? Or do I go even up the carriers and kill their go hunt their carrier?
I really wouldn't worry about that until you have the B cap, because like you don't know where the destroyer is gonna be. Like,
I'm not saying you can't change your plan, but at least have some idea of what you want to do next.
I just want to point out that you said you wanted to get B, but you're not actually getting B. You're getting way too distracted farming the battleship.
I'm just trying to farm damage right now on the Friedrich, because I have my Friedrich built for secondaries, and that's what I was concerned with, getting a little too close for that. And then I shoot north here in a second.
You have a smoke cloud for that.
But SAT
So-
brings up a good point. I would have probably been better heading north here, and then letting the
Honestly,
Icarus.
I respectfully would disagree with SAT. I would have gone south like you did. And simple reason for that is because if there's a destroyer in front, battleships will follow. If you look at your Ismails, they have been following you this whole part of the game so far. If you go north, they turn and go north, and then you lose a lot of map control. What I would have done... Well, Icarus is there, but you saw Icarus before just sitting. So I would immediately say, well, I have to do this. I would have gone southern route into B, and as SAT says, you do have smoke. You get in the secondary range. Who cares? The secondaries themselves aren't going to be that meaningful until you get, like, within 6... Oh, God, Nuremberg. Until you get to, like, what, 6 kilometers or so? So I would smoke then, continue shooting him, and not worry. Because he's probably going to die anyway.
Here?
He smoked
Why did
here
he
because he got spotted by the cruiser.
Correct,
No,
this was a
no,
defensive smoke.
You know why you got spotted by the cruiser?
Because he
That's
shot
mine.
Because you shot the burning BB at 400 XP because you at 400 HP because you were greedy, and then the penalty was still alive even after the battleship was dead.
Good point.
The team will migrate to B. Going north means he flanks the Dallas and the Novo.
Did
Sure.
you really want to flank a Dallas and a Novo in an Aigle?
But to me, I think it's far more important that my battleships feel comfortable getting into a more advantageous position. I want them to go mid. If I go north, the battleships follow me, they go north. Then what? I have a great flanking shot on the Novo and the whatever it is, the Dallas, but at that point, is it considered a flanking shot if my 2 remaining battleships are behind me? You know what I mean?
It's crazy since you mentioned TM Grunty how floaty the shells are. I'm really noticing it now.
Right?
So
Like you're shooting at
noticing
8, like you're shooting at
Yeah,
9 kilometers now.
Yeah, I
You're
should
not even
definitely
shooting at
lose
15.
the extended range and do it up. Yeah. Because that would have helped, my concealment would have helped a few times so far.
Torpille droit devant.
I wouldn't think your concealment would have helped.
Like here,
I think-
Torpille droit devant.
Yep, I mean, maybe it wouldn't have made a difference in this game. But I'm the kind of person in this situation, like a lot of people like SAT probably will say, yeah, you shoot your guns, you farm the battleship. This is the type of situation where I as a destroyer, I go dark, I just use my torpedoes and I use my concealment advantage. I don't care if I farm like 5,000 extra damage on the shells there. I try to do it on the safe side and do it with the torpedoes. But that's a philosophy thing.
No, that's a good point. I
So-
think I go sub hunting now.
2 things I want to highlight. Looking at the minimap, if you're putting Brench in before, do you go for the carrier to even the odds or not? You don't know where the carrier is. If you look at the minimap and keep an eye on it, like I just paused it right now, look at that torpedo bomber. Where's the carrier?
South.
Yeah, he's in the corner. So, you know, to me, like, okay, again, if you knew that before, that could have been an option to go for the carrier. I don't necessarily know that that's the best, but, you know, whatever. And I want to provide a counterpoint for what Grunty said about going dark and using concealment. What I have found when I've played myself, especially the Russian gunboat line, is that the concealment being larger actually saves my ship because I don't get too deep when I get spotted and therefore annihilated because I'm just too close to the enemy when I make my game return and try to run away. So,
Yep. That's
You know.
the Russian thing because you don't have the in the Aigle you can still go dark there when you have the smoke. In a
course.
Russian destroyer it's different. Like I play my Russian destroyers without concealment too. It's a totally different playstyle.
it is. So, you know, I think that to me, and by the way, right here, I would probably pop some depth charges just because you never know where the sub is. And if you're thinking about it, the sub is probably either going to go through the channel behind you, or he's going to try to go for the Ishmael in front of BCAP. So popping a
it.
depth charge here, you might get a lucky hit.
Yeah, I had asked the number like 2 seconds ago to pop his hydro as soon as he thought he was within range. So he does here in a minute.
I actually have no idea what the depth charges on the Aigle. Are they any good?
We're about to find out. Start depth charging now.
I just want to say something because it's funny that you say you like the bigger concealment, and then Garthy's like, well, I have the smoke to turn out. I think that's the difference in the mentality between a gunboat player and a torp boat player.
You got it.
Right, a torp boat
Nice
player is going to use the smoke to get out of the bad situation, to where a gunboat is going to use the smoke to gun something down, farm it out. Right, so you don't want to, in essence, get caught. You want to be aware of when you're going to get bumped, so you're already in your turnout on an angle of running away from the guy. So you can save your smoke for what you want to do, shoot ships.
I think it's on this ship specifically, it's like if I run into the enemy destroyer, I actually want to be closer because I have the hit points to win the fight, right? On the Aigle. But if I get spotted at 8 kilometers and I have to do the fight at 8 kilometers, I'm gonna struggle of actually hitting myself because my shell arcs are floaty. So I actually want to be closer so I can hit my shells, and then I trade my hit points, but I get the kill.
So
See, I kind of side with Grunty. I'd rather keep my concealment as low as possible so I can kill the other DD, because as soon as he's dead, I don't have to worry about the, inevitable torps and a smoke cloud if the destroyer's dead. I don't have to worry about getting rushed, per se, hopefully, by another DD that I'm unaware of. And I can torp things easier.
So SAT score just pointed something out. I love my Podvoisky. It's my favorite tier 5 DD. And its gun arcs are very shallow comparison now that I'm looking at this Aigle game.
Yep.
So I've got to change my gameplay and not try to play the Aigle like I do the Podvoisky. Change it up a little bit because of the gun arc.
And I will respectfully disagree and say I think what you're doing is fine. It just requires a little bit of fine-tuning because that's your style that you're used to playing. So, like, the thing is, this is more of a hybrid destroyer. It can do both things, but it can't do either extremely well. Grunty is more of a concealment, torpedo boat destroyer. He's used to that, so for him, he's going to take a hybrid destroyer and spec it more to what he's used to. Concealment and torps. You are more of a gunboat destroyer player. You're going to spec it for what works for you. Range and guns. There's nothing wrong with either build. Is one more meta than the other? Maybe. But if you're not a torpedo destroyer where you're used to using concealment, none of that's going to help you. So, I would say, when you have a destroyer like this, I think your best course of action is to go with what you know. You can certainly use it as a way to practice a different kind of game style, but beyond that, I really think you're better off just playing it, the way you know it.
I just think that the extra concealment wouldn't hurt him. And
I completely agree.
As he said himself, the extra range is not doing anything for him. So it's a super easy thing to do. Like, just whenever there's a free respec or I want to invest it, I take the 4 points out of the range and put in the concealment.
And all I'm saying is he can do that, but if he finds himself getting caught too much and dying too early or too quickly, then that should tell him the concealment isn't working for him. And it says, okay, let's go to the alternate build that we talked about, which was priority targets and consumable enhancements, right? Yeah. So I'm trying to present two possible builds, okay? And one of them is going to work for Falcon. Maybe both, who knows? But you got to figure out which one works for him.
This is a premium destroyer too, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can do both.
So, like, you can take another captain, slam it in there with concealment, and see if that works better for you.
Bingo.
Right. I mean, the other thing is, it's not bad to have this thing spec'd out for max range to get used to floaty shells, because guess what? There's a lot of ships with floaty shells that you need to be able to know how to shoot at range.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I hear so many people hate the Seattle because it's so, like, it can just get nuked really easy, but I use my Seattle full range, right? And everyone's, oh my God, it's horrible. Just find an island, park next to it, let things come into you. But I'm like, I use it for two things. I learn how to open water in the thing, because if you do it wrong, you're dead in a matter of seconds. And how am I going to hit my shots at range with floaty shells? So the ship serves two purposes for me.
I just want to mention something. Since you said Seattle, the Seattle has actually much better shell arcs than an Aigle has. Like, it's not even close. It's much better.
No. What I'm trying to say is, but that's what I use to teach myself these things. Right.
So,
it's not the most optimal build, and it's not a build most people agree upon, but I'm using it for a certain reason. So using this to learn how to shoot floaty shells at max range, it's not exactly a bad thing either.
So, I would like to say something for a moment, if you don't mind.
No.
I
What if
think
it
if
do?
you, well, then I'll just kick you from the Discord. Mod abuse. Here's the deal. I agree with you, Puddin, that this is a great opportunity to learn floaty shells at max range. However, I would suggest that he learn those floaty shells at the lower max range first. Then, when he feels comfortable, throw a commander on with that AFT, with that extra range, because then he says, okay, I know how to hit something at max range. Now let's increase that range and go farther. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. But I mean, I guess back to the original point was it's a premium ship. He can just throw a different captain and he doesn't have to wait for respec to try the concealment. And that's what I would do
So-
first.
I mean, if you,
he's losing out on his buffed perks. Like Honoré is really, really good for the Aigle, just for
It
the
is.
turret traverse alone.
it is, but look, I mean, if he's not spending doubloons on respecs,
Yeah, I mean,
then play around with it and do whatever the heck you feel like. He's a 21-point captain with all the bonuses. If he is spending doubloons for respecs, then my recommendation is exactly what Puddin said. Throw a bunch of different captains on with different builds or parts of different builds. Is it working for you? Is it not working for you? If it is, then pay the doubloons to respec your big boy on array with the build that works for you. There's nothing wrong with experimenting. You saw me do that earlier today with the Nottingham games. You know?
You know, the other thing, as stupid as this may sound, if you lack all resources to do all of this, go play the PTS. They literally give you everything that you could possibly do. Like you can put the big boy captain on there and respec them for days.
Mhm.
Granted, you probably won't go up against a lot of real people, but you're trying to learn the characteristics of the ship. And
Right.
I mean, that's a place to do it for free with zero penalty.
That is true.
I
However, of
don't
course,
think you
people will
be
play
getting
differently
a-
too.
You will not get a random battle at tier 6 on the PTS. Nobody plays these mid tiers on the PTS. Unfortunately.
Yeah,
It
Brett,
works
did
for
you
high
know- was
tiers,
that
but it
last
doesn't
night?
work for mid tiers.
Go play co-op then. Like if
Then
the
there's-
goal is to learn characteristics,
Mhm.
right?
Then there's also the fact that if you're playing against bots, who the hell cares? Like you're still practicing those kinds of skills, and bots will still react. Bots will still shoot back. Blah 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 blah.
Trying to speed juke.
But they
Yeah,
mm,
not as
Yeah.
much, but yeah.
Granted, they're not the greatest, but like you got to start learning somewhere, and co-op's not the worst place to start your learning journey.
Operations too, for that matter. So all right. Well, any other questions, Falcon, or are you feeling pretty satisfied with our review of your game?
Very satisfied. Learned a lot. So basically, I was just looking in game. I have the same captain specs for both the Podvoisky and the Aigle. I think that's how I mimicked it. So I will change it up. And you guys recommended, let me make sure I got this right. The consumer rules enhancement, as
I mean-
well as RPF and or concealment, and lose the main battery and AA expert.
So the big difference is, yes, you're going to drop main battery and anti-air. There's two possible routes that you can take. One is you go consumable enhancements, priority target. This is if you plan to still play a little bit farther at range, and just kind of run and gun play style. If you want to learn more hybrid style play and more torpedo concealment spec, then you go to concealment. That's your change.
Gotcha. And
you
that
can
will
keep the
basically.
fearless brawler if you want to.
Mhm.
I would
I-
absolutely
I-
keep Fearless Brawler.
I recommend you to pay close attention when you play the ship, how often you're actually using your guns while you're spotted. Because that's where Fearless Brawler helps you. If you find out that you change your playstyle, whatever, like you shoot more from smokes behind island, you shoot mostly unspotted, then the skill is maybe not worth it anymore.
Gotcha.
So what Grunty is saying is if you're going more for concealment and Torp kind of idea, then Fearless Brawler isn't going to help you as much, unless you're going to just open and gunboat it. So again, that's where this is a hybrid destroyer that's good at two different things. Not great at it, either of them, but good at them, right?
I guess I'm just a slave to RPF.
Hmm.
Like, I think there's maybe 2 destroyers I don't run that. I mean, because like my overall goal is to kill the enemy DD first.
I think
Gotta
I
set
like
your
that.
dominance.
Everything
like
else
RPF.
just follows.
I can
For
totally
me,
see where
this
that
is-
would be benefit, Puddin, because in a ship like this, most ships that have low concealment are going to be your Fujins, your kamikazes. They're going to be your Torp boats. So
Well-
being able to hunt them down and just completely dock them will really benefit the team.
Here's another thing that I think a lot of people forget too: subs. Your RPF is pointing in front, like just like for example,
If they're
RPF's
surfaced, yes.
on RPF's in front of you. Now all of a sudden it just swings right behind you and you get spotted and you don't know what it is. It's got to be the sub. You know, I don't care what kind of game you play, first person shooter, an RPG, MMO. There's 2 things that are king in every single game. Concealment, because if you can't see it, you can't kill it. And information. If you know where they're at, you can know how to outmaneuver them. And
All right.
RPF is kind of information.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it as an offensive tool. I'll be honest. I use it purely defensively on Torp boats.
I mean, that's fine. I'm just saying, for me personally, I'm an absolute slave to it. And I
And-
will admit it is a crutch for me.
At this point, if you don't mind, I'd like to cut the